So as we start, please note we'll be streaming on YouTube. Enable anyone who would want to go back and review the recording and also to share with anyone else. So feel free to be alert in regards to that. But now I'm going to hand it over to Veronica.
Right. Thank you, Dorcas, for that. Good evening, everyone. I hope we are well. My name is Veronica Kombe. I'll be moderating the session. I'll be able to have my camera on at some point. Karibuni sana, most welcome. Yeah, let me really just appreciate all of you for joining the session. Appreciate you for setting aside the time to come and learn. And you don't have registered, commit to be here against well, quite a lot of odds. Just want to appreciate each and every one of you. I have been in the HR space for the last 15 years. This is my 16th year. So I hope I have one or two things that I can share with us specialization in the NGO space. So we are as diverse as the group is, and I hope that we'll be able to learn from each other. Without further ado, kindly allow me to have you also get to tell us your name, what you do, and I'll just pick randomly on the different individuals that I'm seeing here. So if Susan can open for us, just give us an introduction. Susan Kamau, get to speak to us, tell us about yourself a little, just in 30 seconds or so, and then we can go to the next person. Karibu, Susan.
Thank you. Susan Kamau is my name. I am a recruiter. I've been in talent acquisition for about 3 years now, not necessarily HR, but currently diverting into core HR, hence why I'm here today, and I'm eager to learn from all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Is there specialization in any particular space that you have, corporate, NGO?
Not yet. Because I've done consultancy, which means it's been a bit diverse. I've been in FMCG, banking, microfinance, you name it, I've done it.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan. Babir, Hamida, could we get to hear from you? I'll try and move fast as she's getting ready. Christine, kindly, let's get to hear from you. Imina. All right, maybe I caught someone off guard. Christine, yes, go ahead, kindly.
Hi, my name is Boke. I am an advocate. Well, I am also working the employment. Well, I'm an employment lawyer, so yeah, I'm here to learn as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So your Nick will be a good connection from this. Abraham, kindly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Abraham Olagunju. I'm a software developer and I work with Rocksuit Energies. I'm here to learn and to also relearn.
All right, great. Thank you, Abraham, and most welcome. Nasra Omar. Okay, as Nasra is getting ready, could you go to Julius?
Good evening, Dorcas. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julius Kamau. I'm a finance professional working with Angaza. And of course, there is a lot of collaboration with the HR. So here to learn and engage. Thank you.
All right, that's a very good background for payroll for our discussion today. Let me go to Wanjiko Kirago. Okay, so as guys are joining, we're just giving you an opportunity to tell us who you are and what you do. If you're comfortable, you can share the organization you work with, but it's not mandatory. But it's good to know who is in the call. So let me go to Nduta. Nduta Kezia kindly, and then we can go to Nu.
Hi everyone.
Hi Sharon. Hi Nduta, sorry Kezia.
So my name is Duta Kezia. It's a pleasure to be here. I've just joined in, so I work with an NGO as a HR officer. Thank you.
Karibu sana Nduta. Nur Ahmed. All right, as he's getting ready, Sharon, we can get to hear from you, followed by Emma, then Cecilia, who you are and what you do. We have a recruiter, we have a lawyer, we have a finance specialist in the room. So just counting on the diverse skills that we have in the room, in the webinar today, and seeing how to partner, collaborate, and get to know each other. So we can go to Sharon, then Emma, then Cecilia will introduce herself. That was
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Sharon Onderi. I am HR generalist, and I'm here to learn from this diverse group of people on this call today. Thank you.
welcome, Sharon. Which space are you in? Which sector?
NGO.
NGO, karibu sana. Emma, let you go. So there are those who have opted to put it in chat. Maybe you can't talk, or maybe you're on the move. Kindly, that is also an option. Let's go ahead and put in our names on the chat. I know we registered, just acknowledging your presence here, the sector that you're in, and what you do in that sector. That will be appreciated. So, Cecilia, are you able to?
Yeah, let's see if you'll be able to hear me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cecilia. I work in the fashion industry with a company called Icon. I am the HR manager there. Yeah, and I'm here to hear, to listen, and also to connect with others.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Cecilia. Interesting sector. And yeah, you get to make our HRs here look good. So that's a plus for us. Hope we'll be sharing our contacts for people to connect. Lina Ochieng, followed by Joy Agutu, and then we can go to Justin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lina Ochieng. I'm in aviation. I'm the HR manager where I am, and I'm looking forward to learning more. Thank you.
All right, most welcome, Lina. We get to fly hopefully soon. Thank you for joining us. Joy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Agutu Joyce. I'm the HR officer working in a manufacturing industry. I'm looking forward to learn more about payroll and other things and also get to connect with my fellows. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Most welcome, Joy. Jacinta Kahi, then Mary Moneki, and then we'll go to Simon.
Hi everyone. I guess sorry I joined in a little bit late. So I guess it's all introduction time for everyone. My name is Jasmine Sakadi. I'm HR manager at ICM Technologies in the ICT department. Rather, we are in the ICT sector, and I look forward to interacting and enjoying the session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. So ICT is an enabler for payroll. So thank you for joining us, Jacinta. Then we go to Mary Mwaniki, then Simon Wanzala. They're just communicating who we are, our roles, and the sector that we work in. If you're comfortable, you can share the organization that you work with. Mary, kind.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Moniki. I'm HR manager in an FMCG company. I'm looking forward to learning and getting to interact with everyone. Thank you.
Karibu sana Mary. We go to Simon. Simon, and then I can see Nasra is ready to go. So Simon Wanzala, then followed by Nasra.
Hi everyone. My name is Simon Wanzala. I work with the healthcare industry and I'm the finance manager.
All right. Most welcome.
Thank you.
Simon, most welcome. Nasra, are you able to go? All right. I can see Emma has put in her name in the chat. As she's in the admin space. Karibu sana Emma Wanjiko. And I also see Wanjiko Kirago has also put in her details in the, but I think she got to introduce herself. Thank you, Dorcas, for capturing that. You don't want to leave anyone out. So Mercy Chumo, tell us your name. I think I have the advantage of seeing your name, so I'm able to read your name out. Mercy Chumo, your name, the sector that you're in, and the role that you play for the organization that you work with. We can have Mercy followed by Avila Obuya, and then Lily Ann and Ann.
Am I putting it on the chat or am I unmuting myself and talking?
Go ahead, Mercy.
Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and looking forward to learning from each and every one of you. My name is Mercy Chumo. I am the manager of human resources for Africa and Asia. I work for a contract research organization. We are in the research space, and I'm happy to be here. So I think that's just about it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Mercy is a long time friend, so karibu sana Mercy, good to see you here. Avila.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Avila Kyomutobuya here. I work as an human resource assistant at Choice Microfinance Bank. I'm happy to be here and nice meeting everyone.
Karibu sana Avila. I hope you get some money from you by the end of the call. Then we go to Lily. Lily, go ahead.
Hi, is it Lily or Lilian? Sorry, I am in between things. Sorry, if it is me, then it is Lilian. Hi everyone, my name is Lilian Washira. I run a HR consulting firm. I manage limited, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
All right, yes, Lily and Anne. Huh? It's registered as Lily Ann. Then, yeah, well, I might not be able to recognize everyone who's in the call. We've gotten to know the diverse sectors. Kindly drop something in the chat. Let us know your name, the sector that you're in, and the role that you undertake for the organization that you're working with. Good to know people. It's good to connect. You never know what opportunities for those in the FMCG sector. We could be buying things from each other. For those in the aviation industry, we could be flying together. For those in the ICT sector, we can collaborate and get to enhance our relationship and how we do things. And I know there is finance here. They're all sectors, masses representing Africa and Asia. What is that like? Just get to learn from each other. The bigger conversation for the day is around payroll. Yeah. And we all have our pain points and our joys around payroll. And today we'll be discussing optimizing payroll data, balancing the insights that we have around and compliance. So yeah, this is a big topic that our very able founder was able to put together for us. And depending on the role that we play, I'll pick on just different individuals to tell us one or two things and their experiences around payroll. I don't know who's ready to go. You could raise your hand. Your best moment as far as payroll is concerned, especially maybe around the first time you ever did payroll or your very first experience doing payroll. I can start as of I was using a system and every month I had to lock myself in the office, not talk to anyone. You know, those days you're just the mean HR. You're not talking to anyone because if you don't do that, you'll not be able to transition the data, close the previous month, and then move each stuff like you're registering everyone afresh onto the next system, onto the next month, like that. I will not mention the name of that system. It crashed like 4 times, yeah, 4 different times, and then it just crashes the day, the day you're supposed to be ensuring you can pay people. And the technical support team, they had some guys here in Westlands in Kenya, and then other guys were in the US. That is what you call baptism by fire. You have to figure it out. Luckily for me, I did mathematics at the university, and I love working with numbers. So I moved all the data from the backup to Excel, and I would compute on Excel. And then when the guys come and sort me out, I would then now feed the information. That was a headache. Like it was just stress. Every other month, you just know you have this 1 week that you're just going to not so nice to people. You don't want to see people, and yet if you don't do that, they'll also be angry. Then we got a grant, for institutional strengthening, and we were able to upgrade what we now use as a system, and we've had to create, like I'm able to work with the guys in tech and tell them, I need the system to be able to do this for me, or I need the system to be able to I need this report generation. Here is the template. You code, make it happen. It's like a template kind of system. I am not where I'd want to be, but I would say I'm around 90% comfortable around. So that was my experience with payroll. Baptism by fire, getting into the department, and then it's gotten better as time has gone. So now I enjoy doing payroll, and I'm able to do it in under 1 hour. When internet is good, then maybe 2 hours at most. When internet is a problem. Who wants to go and share? Give us their best and their not so nice experience around payroll. Look out for the hands that are up for me. Dorcas, who's daring to go? All right, all these people have had very nice experiences around payroll. So, Dorcas, did you choose the right topic? Huh? I see Mercy laughing with tears. I don't know whether those are tears of joy or not. But
I think
Dorcas,
they're for sadness. I
for
think
sadness.
I can actually give an experience when I transitioned from one organization to another, and I found a whole new payroll system. And one of the biggest difficulty is there was a high number of employees being hired. And at the same time, I had to learn the system. So yes, one, baptism by fire, but also I really came to appreciate, people like Akina, Brian Boro, who, went in and they were like, if you just follow the instructions, don't go there all macho thinking you want to press and click on all sections where it says, click next, take your time to understand the system. So one of the most interesting thing is we had a number of people called Kevin. So, and they all had the last two names, three people had three names similar. So Veronica, it was, you have to make sure you're not paying one person three times. And let me tell you, before you just click pay, you go and say, hey, I will check on these Kevins. Are they the right people? Are they in line? And until we were able to put the right measures in terms of compliance, it was hell. Between 25th and 30th, I think I used to lose weight, honestly. I'm not lying. It was a difficult process, but eventually we sailed through. Yes, I'm not a pro, but I can work on that payroll now more confidently. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But still, challenges are there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I think currently I have 4 daisies, and they are all Daisy Chebet, but the last name is different, luckily. So I have to figure out which one am I talking about. So yeah, our people from Mount Kenya who name their children the same name, so that can happen. You can end up with John Kimani, Mwangi, or let me pick on Julius Kamau. You might find several of those. So Julius, what has been your experience?
I'm not totally in HR, and so my experience with payroll is mostly at the tail end of the process. And so definitely there has been quite some challenging times and also some good times. And I think my work pay has been one of the experiences we've had, good at times and also some challenging times. But I think I don't have a highlight of what has gone wrong. I can only appreciate the journey that we've taken so far with the various product development or changes that have happened to better the user experience. So nothing to complain about. Thank you.
All right. I'm glad yours has been a good one. Let me pick on Cecilia.
Yeah, I in my introduction, I said I am HR manager for the company that I work with. We are in the fashion industry, but it's a job that I'm learning on, on the job training. And although right now I am using an HR program, so it's making it much easier. But when I began, my biggest problem was with taxation, because I think, and this is an experience I had for about 2-3 months, where staff immediately I send the payroll and they are paid, because most of them are paid through M-Pesa. Then there will be a big number flocking into my office asking, why am I earning less than I earned last time? What changed? And all that, and to figure out how the taxation was done. That was a big problem for me. But I have learned, how to calculate the payee and all the other deductions that that we are now doing. So that for me was one of the experiences. But I'm learning through it. I think there was another one. If I remember, I will share. But right now, I can gladly say that I take time. I take time at the end of before paying out the salaries, and look through the payroll, check the numbers. Fortunately for us, at the moment, the numbers are not very big, so it's easy to go through the checking through an Excel sheet, and I'm proficient in Excel. So checking the what is this, the consistency in the salaries and also in the deductions is not a big problem for me. So I think for now, I would say I am good. And yeah, but at the beginning, there were some hiccups. Thank you.
Thank you. So much. Thank you so much, Cecilia. Yes, computation, ensuring that you've captured the figures right, and having to justify the deductions. That's a common thing. Evelyn, what has been your experience?
Thanks, Veronica. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much for giving me this opportunity. My experience in payroll has been a hectic one. First of all, I was in a very large organization whereby the headcount was close to 1,500 employees. And of course, definitely the size of the organization was big. And luckily, they had a good payroll system. And yes, we had so much of double checking, because we had to make sure that the employees currently who had worked that particular month are actually being paid for their salaries. And we had to check also with the support team that does the recruitment to make sure that we had received all the documentations in time. And we were actually had a tight deadline to deliver, so that, for example, like every month we have a deadline of 5th of every month, whereby we expected to have received the payroll inputs from the recruitment team who have hired the employees who have joined the business. So that at least when we receive the inputs early, we are able now to start off inputting their details in the in the system early, and be able now to merge it with the other payroll, whereby we make sure that all the employees who either new or exited have already are already ready to be paid that payroll of that month. And then this organization had an early date whereby they had to pay by 25th of every month. So it was also receive inputs early, put your information in the system, counter check versus what is in the budget, and also pay by 25th of every month, so that all the employees ought to have received by latest 26th, 27th in their various bank accounts. So now the change here was whereby we are now going to change to a different system. We were doing away with an old system, which was also not very flexible. When we now transition to the new system, it was hectic also. Again, we had to check the data. We had to make sure the data we are migrating from the old system to the new system is correct, accurate, that we have not omitted any stuff, and all the deductions for payrollers as required, and we have already met all those requirements. So it was also launching that payroll system to the business and explain to the employees why we were doing away with the old system and implementing the new system. So that was now the game changer of a payroll person, just for you to make sure at the end of the day, you have landed a new system, everybody's in the system, everybody's been paid their salaries as usual. There was not going to be a delay, because of course, sometimes people tend to push back and say we are not ready to go live in the other system, hence we will not be able to pay payroll in time. But with all those complexities, we were able to wave through as a team and make sure the employees are being paid on time.
Wonderful. Thank you for that sharing, Evelyn. And I'll stop and that and transition us to the next level. That has summarized my presentation. Eh? Now the next webinar, Dorcas, Evelyn, you are seeing the
I
experience
know.
we have in the room, yeah?
Yeah, I like how she was calm, collective when she's just talking about all the chaos, even in the change of system. I just liked how it flowed. Yes. And I'm assuming she's in the week of doing payroll. Yes. There are people in their payroll week, they're not found. They just go undercover.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you for that. So you can join an organization, and either there is nothing in place and you have to get things done depending on the level of the company. I think our experiences will be different. You need to set up systems to pay people and ensure that information is done and it's done accurately. You can join an organization and payroll is done by finance. And so, depending on the attitude and the culture, it's tug of war every month between HR and finance, and timeliness, accuracy, and this is my role, keep off, that kind of thing. You can join an organization and you have never worked with the system that they are using, and hopefully, by the grace of God, the support system that is in place to support you to get the work done, the payroll done, is good. You can also join an organization and you need to transition from one system to another. I've done that 3 times where I work because at some point you also need to upgrade. It could be that you have the same system, but things have changed. And you can join an organization and you have to do much more. Even what you thought you knew, they do it differently where you're going. So all these are different scenarios. And as Evelyn has ably indicated, sometimes the change management that comes with the transition and payroll is very important. So from the point at which you recruit someone, do they provide you with the right documentation to ensure that you capture the information? What are the measures that you put in place and the controls that you put in place to ensure that you're not double paying people? We had a situation at some point where one of the HR in a space, in a community that we were in, was saying that they found out almost 3 years later that the finance manager who used to pay himself twice every month. And by the time they were catching the issue, he had siphoned over 6 million shillings from the organization. Just the exact same name, exact same details, exact same amount, but it's twice, done twice. And even the auditor, because he's in finance, would be able to, find a way to evade those issues. So from the point at which you receive information about an employee joining the organization, what controls are we putting in place to ensure that the information is captured correctly and that you do not have double entry of their different information? And then from there, how do we ensure that we are deducting the right amount? Because I think there's the component that you're paying right, but also that you're subjecting the pay to the statutory deduction. How do you go about that? Is there a system that supports you? Because systems come, but you have to tell the system what to do for you. Garbage in, garbage out. If you input the right information, you'll get the right information out. Then how easy is it to use the system or the information, the system? Is it working for you? Yeah? Is it working for you? Do you have a support system around you? How easy is it to pay people? Maybe linkage to the bank. The bank needs you to put in the information in this manner. Your system is producing the information in a different manner. How flexible is your system to adapt to the different changes that are needed? Beyond that, now there comes the statutory. There has been changes. If you've experienced doing your return for ITAC, I don't know, they keep updating the P10 form, and you're wondering, what is this now? 1 month, the ITAX report you are downloading from your system was working, the next month it's not working. and with all these other additions that we have in place. So all those things are things that we go through as HR. And I would want to invite Nicholas Huero to talk to us at this point. So Nicholas is one of the faces that you were able to see on our poster. So yes, thank you. Thank you, Dorcas, for supporting me with that. So Wakili, yeah, I'm calling him Wakili Nicholas. He's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Nicholas has over 8 years experience in employment and commercial law. So we have the right person in the call. He holds a bachelor's degree in law from the University of Nairobi, and his commitment to excellence is unwavering for being an industry leader. He is a shrewd litigator, so you want him on your side when things go the other the other direction. So good to really have you in the call, Nicholas. And he has handled numerous cases, including wrongful dismissal, human rights, and constitutional matters. Apart from that, he's also handled commercial contracts and commercial disputes when they do arise, and he's called upon to do that. So he's well versed in all these aspects. Beyond that, he's been able to provide comprehensive legal solutions. We need, we go for the best. We need the best in the room, and he's very good at training people on especially matters employment law and ethics. He has a heart for kids. He serves at the board of Hope for Cancer Kids, so he has a heart for children. So I could say so much, but I don't think I can do justice to a proper introduction of who Nicholas Huero is. And thank you, Nicholas, and thank you, Anne Babu and company for partnering with us to ensure that our HR professionals are adequately equipped to be able to handle matters HR, compliance, and payroll data. So karibu sana Nicholas, and kindly take it over.
All right, thank you very much, Veronica. Yes, let me just share my screen. Actually, before I do that, let me just say that I will be taking you through compliance. So basically what is expected of a payroll system and why there's that expectation. I will take you briefly through the items that would be seen in almost any payslip. So these are deductions. This is why we need a payslip in the first place, etc. I will also tell you some of the effects of non-compliance. So we'll discuss that briefly so that you can understand why it's very important to comply in terms of payroll. So yeah, let me just go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, I hope you can all see that. Dorcas, you can just confirm for me if it's okay.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we'll just jump right in. Yeah, so one of the main reasons actually why we have compliance is employment and labor standards. Yeah, so the Employment Act is the main source of compliance requirements. And let me just mention that the Employment Act contains the minimum terms and conditions of employment. So what is in the Act is actually required for everyone, regardless of whether you have more or less in terms of your contractual your contractual terms and conditions. So these are the minimum terms and conditions. Now, the first labor standard or the first employment standard which affects compliance is with regard to compensation. So I'm sure we all know compensation is it's the most critical aspect of employment. It's the reason we work, so that we can be compensated. So part 4 of the Act deals with protection of wages. And here, Section 17 specifically touches on payment of wages. So here, it's basically a requirement. If an employee has worked, they have earned their wages, they must be paid. And so that is basically the overarching purpose of having a payroll system. It's so that you ensure anyone who has worked has been paid. And I think I had someone mention that as the challenges. You have to go through everything, including your budget, to make sure that if you're paying Nick, he has actually worked for it. So as you'll see there also, Section 1710 makes it an offense. So it's actually an offense to willfully refuse to pay salaries. So if it's a mistake, it can be corrected. But if it is willful refusal, then it is a criminal offense. So we'll move on to the next one. The other issue that comes with compliance, and this is in a general sense, is with regard to the burden of proof. So in employment, it is always the employer's duty to prove. So that if an employee alleges that I was not paid my salary, that is the truth unless the employer can prove otherwise. So that's why it's very important to maintain a payroll system, so that in case Nick denies ever receiving salary, we are able to remove that data from the payroll system and show that he was paid X amount because he worked X days. So it's very important. And like I'm going to tell you one of the ramifications, but yes, it's very important to always have that proof. So the other reason for that is that Section 74 of the Employment Act, it requires that an employer maintain records. Yeah, so you must maintain employment records. Now, this includes everything from a contract to your leave forms to any sick leave documents submitted. Anything coming out of that employment must be maintained by the employer. And so payroll will then form part of a very important record. So that's why it's important to maintain payroll, because as an employer, it's the only way you can prove that you have paid the employee, which is critical to employment. Let me just mention there, Section 10(7) of the Employment Act. It states that where there is no contract or where there's a dispute regarding the terms of employment, it is the burden of the employer to prove or disprove an alleged term of employment. And as you'll see in a case I've highlighted later, producing that payroll can mean the difference between a very big judgment and winning the case. So it's very important in terms of burden of proof. Now, number 3, as we go into now the nitty-gritties of the payroll, the Employment Act is very clear on payroll cycles. Yeah, so Section 18 of the Employment Act talks about payroll cycles, so that the maximum cycle, I think we all know, is 1 month. So employees are usually paid on a monthly basis. You should not exceed that. But there are variations depending on the kind of contract you're dealing with. So for example, if you're dealing with casuals, you can choose to pay them daily. You can choose to pay them weekly. You can choose to pay them every fortnight. So you can have variations depending on the kind of business you have. I think I had someone mention that from an FMCG. So in that situation, you can have, various cadres of employees and therefore various payroll cycles. So again, that's a big influence on compliance. You should not exceed what is set there. We'll move on to the next one, deductions. Now, this is a big, this is the biggest actually issue in payroll, is deductions. So what are the allowable deductions to an employee's salary? So again, Section 19 deals with that. It's very clear on what deductions can be made. Some of the allowable deductions, let me just mention them. Number one, any amount authorized by law. Yeah, and that causes a lot of confusion. I've even had some of the questions, not questions, some of the concerns you've raised. Yeah, that the law changes and you must keep up. So this is the reason why. It's because Section 19 is very clear that so long as there is a law sanctioning that deduction, the employer has no option. And that's why if you look at, for example, the Affordable Housing Levy, it was anchored in the Employment Act before, and you still had to deduct, and now it is anchored in its own law. So long as there's a law in place allowing the deduction, as a lawyer, I would say you have no option. As the employer, you must effect that deduction. Number two, you are allowed to deduct contributions to a provident fund or a pension scheme or whatever kind of arrangement you have in that nature. So there you are allowed to deduct without express permission of the employee. You are also allowed to deduct wages when the employee is absent from work. So for example, if I miss a day of work, if I miss 2 days of work without permission, then you can deduct those 2 days at the end of the month. So that again is allowed. Any amount that is paid by mistake, I think we had an example from our moderator about someone who was paying himself excess. So, I mean, if you realize that and you want to recover, then you can do that, because if this person was paid by mistake, you can deduct those funds from them. And then finally, and this is fairly obvious, if an employee has requested a deduction, then that goes without saying, you are allowed to deduct. So those are allowable deductions. I will deal with them a bit later in the presentation. But yeah, so let me move on now to payslips. Again, it is a requirement in the Employment Act. You must give a payslip. Section 20 and 21 deal with that. So you must give a payslip showing itemized earnings and itemized deductions. So the point is that this employee should be able from the payslip to know, I have a salary of 100,000 and I'm receiving 50,000 because XYZ has been deducted. I am paying back a loan or whatever it is. So that is a requirement of the law. Of course, there is a practice that employers will not issue payslips unless requested. That's a story for another day, but according to the law, an itemized payslip is required. Finally, there's issues such as overtime. Yeah, so if an employee is working excess hours, I will use the FMCG example again. If you have people on the shop floor who are working in excess of 8-12 hours as agreed, then they should be paid for that. So again, the question is, are you putting that within your payroll so that you're able to identify how much do I owe Nick at the end of the month, etc. So that's again a compliance issue. You must comply, you must pay overtime. Next is with regard to entitlements of an employee. So I can be absent from work, but if I'm on sick leave, I should still be paid. I can be on maternity, paternity leave, that's covered at Section 29. Again, I should still be paid. I should still be part of payroll. I can be away on annual leave. Again, I should still be paid. And of course, like I mentioned, if I'm away without leave, yeah, if I'm away without leave, that can be deducted from my salary, but that deduction should be marked. It should be present in my payslip so that I'm able to know that I'm earning less because of X reason. Now, deductions allowed by law. So again, I want to now go into this a bit. Like I said, I'm not doing any specific industry, and this is what we usually find in most payslips. So number one, the obvious one, income tax. So that's pay as you earn. So Section 5 of the Income Tax Act is the section that deals with that. So it allows deduction on account of the income you earn. So this is your basic salary, your allowances, anything that's monetary. Of course, you must give the government their share. Next is NSSF. Yeah. So NSSF, of course, is your pension. So Section 20 of the NSSF Act allows an employer to deduct from your salary towards your pension. Next is NHIF. I've written there /SHIF on account of the transition. So as I'm sure you all know, there is a transition that is in place. We are moving towards the Social Health Insurance Act. And so under that act, we will again see deductions. There is an indication that it will be 2.75% of your salary. But yes, so as things stand, that has not been implemented. So the current regime in place is the NHIF Act. Section 16 is what sanctioned the deductions that we are seeing on our payslips. And under the new act that is incoming, Section 27 is what will give your employer or the employer the power to deduct from your salary. And then finally, we have the Affordable Housing Fund. So yeah, so I've already mentioned this. Affordable Housing Fund was within the Employment Act. That was nullified by the court. So it's its own act right now. So Section 4 of the Affordable Housing Act again authorizes your employer to make deductions on your salary without necessarily consulting you. So again, I mean, that is basically the answer to some of the concerns you've been raising. So once the law changes, there's really no option but to keep up with it. So it's not a matter of employees are complaining or they're coming to your office. The cost of not complying with the law far outweighs, the inconvenience of having to explain what has happened. So again, be very careful on that. If the law changes, you're better off making the deduction and explaining. And then finally, we have deductions which are allowed by contract or by CBA. So for example, I know personally, for example, in the security sector, men and women who are security guards are given equipment or they're given uniform, and some CBAs allow for the employer to make small deductions every month to cover that cost so that the employee does not have to pay upfront for those equipment. I think it's the same in the hospitality industry. We have, uniforms or specialized equipment. So again, you can have a CBA or you can have a contract in which you have allowance for such deductions. If I now say perhaps more high level, you can have places where employees are given grants. For example, a car loan, and things like that. So that will then allow, by way of your contract, we are allowed to deduct X amount towards, the car ownership scheme. So that I would say is basically what employment standards influence the payroll system. So those deductions must be made ETC. Now, the other issue that comes up with regard to payroll, of course, is data protection compliance. So this, I will not dive into this too much. I think this should be another session on its own. But what I will tell you is that, of course, the data that is collected as part of payroll, I mean, it includes your name, it includes your age, it includes your marital status, it includes your telephone number, it can include addresses. It can include email addresses. Of course, it can have your ID number, your KRA PIN, your bank account details. So all of that is personal data. and some of it is even sensitive personal data. And so the Data Protection Act then comes into play. So as an employer, you must ensure that the data we are collecting as part of payroll is protected. It is kept confidential. I should not be walking around the office and everyone knows, everything about me. So you must ensure that the integrity and the safety of that data is always guaranteed. And that means you must comply with the Data Protection Act. Of course, there are issues in the Act, for example, the principles, for example, the purpose of collecting data, how to safeguard it, things like that. So all of those things come into play. And because it's so much data concentrated in one place, let's say in finance, it really must be guarded, from prying eyes. Because once I have, for example, Nick's personal data, including his marital status, his salary, really that is information which is gold nowadays. Yeah, so that's really an issue you must always keep in mind in terms of compliance. So let's move on. Now, what I will cover here is effects of non-compliance. So number one is liability. Like I have mentioned, it is always the employer's burden to prove. So where there's a dispute, where we are not agreeing what exactly was happening, it is always the employer's burden to prove. So that if I am claiming that I was paid late, yeah, or if an employee is claiming they were paid late, it is the employer to prove we paid salaries on 26th as usual, and here is the evidence. If the employee is alleging, I went for maternity leave and I was not paid, again, it is payroll that will come in and say, no, we processed your payment on 25th as usual into this account. Again, if I allege that I was not paid my full salary, again, it is the employer to come and say that here is your payslip. Yeah, we paid you 2.75% less on account of the social health insurance fund. So you should be able to prove every payment. And I think I had someone mention that it's quite a process to go through to make sure that before you pay this person, what are they entitled to? Why are they entitled to that? So that you make sure you pay the person the right amount, and you must do it by a certain date. So that is a way of escaping liability, so that you're able to be sure that Nick has been paid as expected. Again, let me also repeat, payroll systems. I mentioned payroll forms a big part of employment records. Yeah. In fact, there are places which, aside from your contract and your payslip, everything else is payroll. Yeah. So it's very important to maintain a good payroll system, one that is clear, so that you can be able to escape liability. Now, there's a case that I've highlighted, Asakulu versus West Kenya Sugar. Yeah. Now you can see here, there was a dispute. There was a dispute in terms of whether this employee was a piece rate employee or was a normal employee. Now, West Kenya Sugar, of course, I'm sure you know them, they make Cabras sugar. So these were workers who were collecting cane and they were being paid per ton. So that if I come in the morning, if I collect 1 ton by lunchtime, I can leave so that I know I've made X amount. And of course, this employee was trying to claim that since 2009 to 2020, he was actually a full-time employee. Yeah. And you can see there, the judge commented that the appellant says his NSSF from 2009 to 2020 was a constant amount. Yeah, the respondent produced printout of work attendance records, number of trips and tonnage of cane loaded by the appellant, but did not produce payroll to show how much the claimant was being paid, yet they had the responsibility of keeping records. So you can see in this example, this entire case turned on payroll. So you should be able to produce payroll to show that I'm paying this person because of X, and this is the exact payment I made. So it's very, very, very important because you can escape liability in case of our suit using payroll. Next, again, is another case where payroll was very central. So this is Erastus Kwaka Otieno versus Danush Infotech Limited. Now, in this case, this employee was claiming or rather appeared to be an independent contractor. He had actually signed an agreement which was clear that he's a consultant. Yeah. And he was not intended to be an employee. However, the court had to now go into, is he an employee or not? Yeah. And you can see there in the end, what turned the case was an email from 2016, which stated that we are now closing payroll. Kindly note, I will process your salary as communicated, since I have not received any other communication. Again, very simple case. You have a contract which says someone is a consultant, but you have put them on payroll. And if you have put them on payroll, it simply means that they are an employee. So that is enough to turn the whole thing around. So again, it shows you how important a payroll system is, how important payroll is in terms of your relationship, even with external parties, because there are ramifications of putting someone on your payroll. Next, again, very obvious criminal sanctions or fines. Yeah, so non-compliance in terms of payrolls, it can lead you to very serious issues. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, under the Employment Act, willful refusal to pay wages is an offense. Yeah, so that if you're not going through your payroll, if you're missing a few people, it may be called willful, and that could lead to some criminal sanctions. Let me not even start with KRA. If KRA were to find you, you know, underpaying your income tax, or not paying your income tax at all, or misclassifying employees, that would be a very big issue, especially in the Kenya we live in. Yeah. So again, such sanctions can come from non-compliance. Next is the NSSF Act, Section 19, subsection 7, failing to maintain a proper record of NSSF or for NSSF purposes. That in itself is an offense. Again, Section 55 of the NSSF Act, it lists various offenses starting on contributions. For example, evading to pay, you know, deducting and evading to pay, or making false statements to the NSSF. Again, you can be arrested and charged. Rarely happens, but you don't want to be the first. NHIF Act, Section 16, subsection 6, it is an offense to deduct and fail to remit. Yeah, so there's criminal sanctions. There are also fines being introduced now, so that if you have unpaid dues, they attract interest at, I think, some of the most popular are 3%, 2.5%. So there's that you need to avoid by being compliant. And then finally, is the data protection issue I've mentioned. Again, this is sensitive personal data. This is data that you must be very careful with. And as I'm sure you know, the Data Commissioner's Office is now very robust. They are really trying to push compliance. And what that means is that they are really punishing. If you're the first one to be reported, they will punish you very heavily. So you must be careful with data protection. You don't want a situation where you have shared, you know, personal data to an entire or to external parties. That would completely be, you know, it would really lead to some ramifications. So Section 63 of the Data Protection Act, it's the section that allows the commissioner to issue an administrative fine of up to 5 million. Yeah, and especially with data protection, it really it really is a matter that you might think is nothing, but it can grow into something. And I can give you an example of a situation where an employer was recruiting and they shared the regret email, but they CC'd everyone that they were sending it to. And so from that email, I can see 50 other email addresses of people who have been rejected. And trust me, that produced a complaint to the data commissioner very quickly. And that now triggers other things. So you must really be conscious with data protection. I'm sure Dorcas will organize another session where we can address that. Yes, so that's it for me. That is what goes into compliance. I think I will just tell you again, the key takeaway: if the law changes, you must comply. It is sad we are all suffering, but as employers, as HR practitioners, you must comply, and very quickly. Yes, so thank you for that.
Wow, thank you very much, Nicholas, for that sharing. And the verse that we dropped, you can raise your hand. Let's interact on this a bit. You can raise your hand, or you can drop your question in the chat. We are on for feedback. That was wonderful sharing. If you forget everything Nicholas says, if the law changes, adjust as fast as possible, change the law, move into compliance. You'd rather be remitting less or amending your deductions and remitting them a different amount than not complying, because if you even get a credit, not than not. So something that I just wondered about, or maybe you could just speak on issues around how you treat airtime for staff, for communication, the thresholds, and how does it, at what level is it taxable, at what level is it not taxable? Benefits such as a car and housing, how do you, how do we capture that? I see Nelly is asking, I'm curious to know about help as a deduction. If the organization enforce this, that is deduct from salary and remit themselves, especially with the option of individuals paying for this themselves. So could you respond to that? Issues around per diem taxation, what level is it taxable, what level is it not taxable? So those three aspects. Let's start with airtime, the higher education loans board deduction, and then benefits such as, let's say, a car. If the organization has given you a car to use, if you're getting benefits such as fuel, which are in kind, not necessarily cash. Maybe you're getting fuel for your vehicle, for your personal vehicle. Maybe you're living in an organization house, in an institute house. It is for their convenience that you live in their house so that you can get to work quickly. But yet it is a benefit, and there is a certain treatment that it attracts. So could you kindly just go over that? Thank you.
Yeah, so let me, in answering the question, I think I'll answer both of them in one. Now, the most important consideration is whether or not it's a cash benefit. So that issues like per diem, issues like telephone, airtime allowances, the issue is that if I am processing it through your payslip, it becomes very difficult to avoid. Yeah, because that means, let's say I'm earning 20,000 and I have a telephone allowance of 5,000. It means I'm being paid 25,000. And in that sense, because the Income Act is drafted in a very wide way, and they do that on purpose so that they can capture, as much as is possible. Yeah, so that if I'm being paid per diem, it means that at the end of the month, my salary is X amount, and it's made up of basic salary house allowance, and all these allowances. So in that sense, when you make that declaration to KRA, they will charge you, they will charge it as an income. Yeah. So that's, and I think if you're getting it in kind, then it is easier to avoid the trap, especially of income tax. Yeah. So that if you're giving me a car, I mean, it's not an allowance in my salary, it's a benefit. It's much harder to, to put a number on it. That's the same thing with fuel. If you're paying me in kind, you're not giving me an allowance to go and fuel my own car. You're fueling the car yourselves. That's a much better way of dealing with it. So I would say that, I mean, the answer lies in what cash, what cash entitlements are you giving? And if it is in cash, if it is going through payroll and through my payslip into my account, income tax will look at that as an income. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. I hope it's exhaustive. If not, kindly drop a question in the chat. So we have a question from Stephanie Wanjiko, who's asking, since it's an offense to deduct and not remit the statutory deductions, how would you treat a staff in the event that they have not registered for a particular deduction, or they're in the process of registering, and in the long run, you will still need to remit? So you can take note of that. And then from Grace Wamboy, how would an employer avoid legal implications being sued in a case where the business is changing to different operations, meaning that they want to let go of the staff, the current staff? Some have worked for over 20 years. How could they be compensated to avoid complications? There is no contract or policy were used at any point. So you have a scenario where someone maybe set up an organization, they did not know, or they did not have any policies in place. And at the end of the day, they have changed operations, their focus. Maybe you are in one area, you totally change to another. So you need to let go of this stuff. How do you treat that to avoid legal implications? And then, yeah, I see Lily has given, and Lillian has given a suggestion: work around per diem, airtime, and fuel is treating them as company expenses by the company directly paying to the service provider. So those are some of the aspects. So you could take those two. If there are any other, kindly feel free to drop them here so that we have an engaging conversation. But yes, back to you, Nicholas. You can take those two.
Yeah. So I think for the first one was about transitioning a company. So I think the long and short of that is that whether or not these employees have contracts, they are considered employees. And actually, the Employment Act has a provision on oral contracts. Although as an employer, you are supposed to give contracts, but you should, I mean, the point is that it protects employees so that you can never be quite in limbo. Yeah, so if you are transitioning into new operations, meaning you're shutting down the company, the answer to that would be a redundancy, because the definition of a redundancy is that these employees are losing their employment without any fault of theirs, or with no fault of theirs. So you would have to go through a redundancy. I would say that would be the most, that would be the most uncomplicated way of doing it. You go through redundancy, you can pay these employees for the years they've worked. However, it is an option. Yeah. If you are transitioning with everyone, you can transition with them to the new company and have the new company take them on as if they have worked from day one. Yeah. So that so long as you're not, so long as you're not reducing your staff numbers, if you're just transitioning completely from one vehicle to another, then that would be the second option. But yes, you need to have in place a proper transition so that these employees, they can have their rights protected even through that transition. Yes, and again, the second one was the workaround for per diem, airtime, and fuel. So yes, so that's actually correct. I mean, the only way is that the only way to remove that is if I am not earning the money myself. Yeah, so that if I'm an employee, I am not, let me say for lack of better words, I'm not touching any cash. So there's nothing coming into my pocket. So there's therefore nothing to tax. So that's the point I was making, that of course, I mean, there are limits. There are some limits I know in the law. If you're earning some allowances up to 2,000, up to 3,000, but the easiest thing is that for these allowances, not to come to my pocket per se, so that they're not part of the payslip, so that then taxation will not touch on them.
For that. I think from some training we received is that, for instance, for per diem, like you have said, have it, you don't want it to be part of your payroll account for the money. Yeah, account for the money that is advanced. I think there's a minimum threshold that they don't tax. You can account for the rest. You went and slept in a hotel, bring the hotel receipt, create food, bring the food receipt, and provide that to the organization. But it is paid as an expense and not as a benefit, because it's there to facilitate it. So you need to get using that money. So that's how it's done. I can see Noor Salim has his hand up. Kindly go ahead and ask the question. Salim, you can go ahead. Yes.
Good evening. My question to Nicholas is, you touched, I stand to be corrected, you stated that payroll, once you include the employees on the payroll system, that means they are basically your employees. With the current situations, you'll get any type of wages that is being paid is subjected to all deductions. So what is your take in regards to a company that has two systems to help them in calculating the gross salary for a month? So basically, you'll get one is a payroll system where all the employees, will get the pay slip. But then we have another system that helps in calculating the casual employees or the contractual employees who are engaged for a 2 weeks period and paid maybe 2 times a month. However, they're not given pay slip. So what is your take in regards to that? Would they still be stated as employees? However, their contract states that they're recruited or they're engaged for a period of 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, I think first of all, let me clear what I said. When I said that, I was referring to what would be called independent contractors or consultants. Yeah, so these are people who are not in employment. I mean, when it comes to independent contractors, they have their own timetable. They have, I mean, it's literally like a business, a business exchange. But what you have described is different cadres of employees. Yeah, so that there's nothing wrong if you have two systems, so long as these people are employees and you have the information. You have a system where you can pull out and say that Nick was employed as a casual. He worked from this day to this day. This is the payment we made to him. So there's nothing wrong with that, with having a system for employees which will produce pay slips, and then having another one for casuals, having for, for what you call them, like short fixed term contracts. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The differentiation is when someone is not an employee. So yeah, so also, so let me just mention a casual employee is still an employee. Yeah.
Back to Nicholas again. So
Yeah.
what's your take in regarding giving them pay slips, whether depending on the type of employment, whether you're a casual or a fixed term, are they all entitled to be given pay slips, itemized pay slips?
Okay,
Despite
yeah.
they deducted all they deducted all statutory deductions.
Yeah, so for casuals, I think there's no requirement to give them pay slips, especially if you have someone who's worked for, a day or 2 days. I think there's a threshold in the act. I was just trying to check it. There's a threshold in the act in terms of pay slips, but an itemized pay slip is a requirement for an employee who's being paid month on month. Yeah. So for casuals, for example, if someone has worked for a day, you don't need to give them a pay slip. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that, Noor. I see one question. We'll take one or two questions, then we'll move to the next presentation. Thanks, Nicholas, for a great presentation. How does one manage an organization which has employees who have worked many years ago, say in the 80s or 90s? I once experienced a case of an employee currently retired came to the organization to claim payment of NSSF, which was not remitted in 1980 to 1990 when he was in active employment. He approached the HR office and issue on our end where we're not able to get the records of NSSF remittance for that duration. How does one handle such an issue in the case the employee does sue the organization?
Okay. Yeah, so before I answer that, let me just go back to Noor. So that is Section 20. Section 20, subsection 3. The application of the payslip issue does not apply to casuals or piece rate employees, so long as they are not employed for longer than 6 months. So if you work for a period exceeding 6 months, then you are entitled to a payslip. But for all other employees, then payslip should be given. Now, coming to this question, this is a very interesting question, because the issue here is that the NSSF deduction, yeah, it's my money which was deducted by the employer to be forwarded to NSSF. So in this case, the employer is an agent, yeah, so that if you fail to deduct, and that's why it is an offense, yeah, that when you fail to deduct, no, when you fail to remit these funds, what that means for this employee is that they miss out on pension in many, many years to come. Yeah. So, I mean, this is usually, in my experience, it's resolved just simply the employer will end up having to pay. Yeah. Some courts have said, of course, you can pay back only the remittance, so that, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, it's a very small amount, but then they will add interest, or they will try and find a way for this employee to find justice. And justice in this case means you have lost the power of that money. The way the money would have grown is lost. Yeah, so I mean, I would say it is a very unfortunate issue. Yeah, if it ends up in court, I think the best way to handle it would be to refund, if possible, with some way of putting in interest. But again, it really, when you're in court, it really depends on, on the case that is made, on your advocate, on the judicial officer. But the way I see it, yeah, this employee will need to be refunded, and it's actually, it is their money which had been deducted. So it was for the purpose of pension, and yeah. So that's a very unfortunate situation.
All right. Wow. Thank you for that. I once supported someone to handle a case where I think for about 7 years, the employee had been deducted, but in this case, it was the higher education loan. And they had their pay slips to show. And even that person was able to trace the records and showed that they were able to the deductions were done, much as that organization was working using Excel. So on the Excel sheet, it showed that this amount had been deducted. They had kept very good records, the HR there, but just on Excel, just a very basic Excel, and it had been printed all the years in a file. So the payroll was just done on Excel, printed every month, and the information was kept there, and they had done some version of a payslip, and still those copies were printed. Interestingly, they just printed the payslips for all the staff. And for 7 years, they deducted this employee, but the money was not remitted. And those days, this issue of the compliance certificate was not there. So I think maybe it must be about 5 or 6 years now. The employee came back and said, you know what, I need to, I think they were going for a political post. It always happens that it has to do with a political post, and they needed to get their help clearance, and they couldn't get their help clearance. And when they checked, it was like, no, you for these years, you didn't pay your help, you didn't pay your help loan. And no, they were like, no, but I was deducted that money. And it had earned interest. So the employer had to pay that amount of money. And the employer had to pay the interest that had accrued over that period of time. So it can be a fortunate event in the sense that if it was deducted and it was not remitted, the employees and their records, the employer is willing to pay, then the payment is done and you don't go to court. It would be an unfortunate event because to have a situation where the money was deducted, maybe the company closed down and they didn't remit the money. So for you also, as either from an employee perspective or a HR perspective, you need to encourage your employees to keep checking their status. Because sometimes even for HR, you remit, and then somehow, you remember the era before uploading, these uploading issues happened. You'd walk to NSSF with a flash disk that had your Excel sheet with the information. And sometimes you go check a few months later, that information didn't upload. Yeah, it was not uploaded on their end. And you have to go back again with the flash disk and all that. So have either as an annual practice, as your end of year closing processes, just ensuring that you get your employees to go and get their statement printed for them, and they counter check that you have remitted. For NHIS, I think they've provided an SSB code that allows you to just get a mini statement that shows, whether your money has been remitted or not, and your employees get to know the status that they have. So that I thought that was important, just to chime into that conversation. We really do appreciate you, Nicholas. Please don't go away. Stay here because I think there are other aspects that could come up. Someone is saying here, NSSF showed them that at some point. Mercy is sharing that, NSSF, some of those practices or ways of doing things were very retrogressive, but we appreciate that they've improved. I think now they are some of the easiest to report and to just be able to track information on behalf of the organizations that we. One thing that Nicholas has said that I thought, wow, remember, as HR, you are the representatives of the organization. Your employer has engaged you because you have the competencies and the certification to be able to handle payroll. So say, for example, the organization is sued for some issue. Let's say the payroll was done badly. Let's say there were late payments. Let's say something happened
we have not complied to the list of issues that Nicholas has shared with us. The employer can be sued, but the employer can come back and sue you as the HR. I don't know whether, Nicholas, you've had an encounter around that where the employer who is suing the HR because the HR officer or office did not undertake their mandate accordingly. So we could think about that. Even encountered a case, kindly, just a quick share if anything comes to mind, and then we can transition to our next conversation.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, let me just also, I think that's a very important point because at the end of the day, it's usually a HR function. So let me say, I mean, at least it is the HR who will have to come to court. In my experience, usually HR will be the witness. It'll be HR to come and explain, this is our payroll system, these were the deductions that were made, etc. So a lot of this falls on HR in terms of what will be deducted. I've seen a comment there of whether it's a finance or a HR issue. I would say it's more of a HR issue because it's you who says. If you direct finance, they should ideally follow your direction. But yeah, so HR, you really are at the center of a lot of these things. Then yes, if unfortunately I must be involved as a lawyer, it's very likely that it is me and HR. So yeah, that's all.
Whose side are you usually on?
Well, well, we provide services to anyone, but for me, I usually am on the company side. So we support at Anbabu and Company, we support employers mostly with their processes or with whatever is going on. So yeah, so at Anbabu, I will likely be on the respondent side.
All right. Thank you for that. So as HRs, we cannot afford to not keep proper records or do things right as far as payroll is concerned. And if you're in one of those organizations where if there is the tug of war between HR and finance on who should run with payroll, kindly share with them the YouTube link to this conversation so that they pick it up. And if they choose to take that responsibility from you, that is in order. They can also sign a waiver, and in the event that things don't work out, then they also need to be the ones who are answerable. So, yeah, what is your take home from? What are you taking away as we prepare to invite our next presenter? What is it that you are taking away from this conversation? Kindly, either raise your hand, put it in our chat. What is it that you've taken away? What is this one thing you didn't know now you know? What is this thing that you need to rethink how you do things? What is this one thing that you're excited that you did right? Yeah, kindly share with us in the chat. Let's get to hear from you. And I'll pick on one of us to share. Angela, what is it that you're hearing that either reinforces what you have been doing, that you've been doing the right thing, or challenges you that I need to do things differently? And I see Mercy is saying document. What is it for you? Thank you so much for that, Mercy. Angela, what is it? What is that for you? And Angela Mwendarani is our co-founder for Women in HR. So karibu sana to this conversation.
Hi, Vero.
Hi,
and
karibu sana.
everybody else.
Put you on the spot.
From my side, actually, I can't hear you. So you're like very far. I don't know if it's me only or I can't hear you properly. I just had you call my name, so I'm sorry I didn't, but I'm here following the conversation. I don't know if it's me alone.
or if somebody else, if you can hear very well. Probably, I don't know what the question was or what you would have wanted me to comment on.
Sorry about that. I hope I am clearer now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, the question is, raining heavily, is that better?
Yeah, this is better. This is better.
Okay, so I can drop off the earphones then. The question is, from this conversation that Nicholas has led us through, what is it that is being reinforced for you? I have been doing this, I need to keep doing it, or I have not been doing one or two of the things that he mentions that I need to start doing. Yeah, basically that.
Okay, great. So for me, you would want me to comment just as an individual, as an individual HR?
Yes, you can start there.
Okay.
But feel free.
So sorry, I really came a little bit late. I was a bit head up at work, but one of the things I found the conversation going on was about the casual payments. And I think someone just asked a question if casual should get pay slips. One of the things for us, what you're doing for casual, I can say, is we are using the Excel, what you explained, the Excel, so that when you're able to track, so we're also able to track on their or on their time, so they don't work longer, like to do the 3 months. We only do about 2 months, and then we give them a rest. So I think with the system, we are not putting them on payroll, but we do manual deduction of the NSSF, NHIF, and affordable housing levy as well. And yeah, so that I think for now we can continue doing that, because right now the number is a little bit low. I work in hospitality, and right now it's low season, but when it's high season, probably that's when you have a big number. And but we are not yet exploring the possible way of putting them, or rather using the system to track. I had a question. I don't know if you've already answered the question that we had asked earlier on. But my question right now goes to the payment with when you're using the dollar rates, because the dollar keeps on fluctuating. Is there someone touched on that for salary payment, and it's in dollar?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Angela. We have not tackled how to treat payroll when you're computing it in foreign currency. So I think that Nicholas, you can prepare to answer that. Then we'll come back to you. And then I think, Evelyn indicates that Evelyn Kirago indicates that the data protection fine is 5 million. Yeah, when information about stuff is out there and it shouldn't be, then you're liable to a 5 million penalty fine. And then Joy is telling us that attention to detail on every data input is very key. And yes, you can appreciate that. You do not want to be making any errors. We want to ensure that we are capturing the information the way we should, so that it can be of benefit. And of course, the more automated it is, the better, because then transitioning from 1 month to the next, you're carrying on information that you know is reliable, as opposed to trying to key it in. So even for Angela, then from your response, I would challenge you to see if you can move from Excel to a basic system, because then it's not easy to corrupt or change, or have a typo as far as someone's data is concerned, and that way you reduce on the number of errors, unless of course it's an advanced version of Excel that would allow you to do that. So yeah, that's what I would leave it at. Nicholas, would you have a response as to how to treat payroll if you're computing it in foreign currency?
Yeah.
Dollar, pound, euro, whichever it is.
Yeah, so for payroll, that if you're paying tax based on a dollar income, KRA has a rate, or rather they convert the rate at the rate on the day or which you're paid. So that if the dollar is at, if it's fluctuating or if it's standard, usually KRA will convert it and then calculate tax based on that. So yeah, so that's what I would say with regard to the dollar. So it's for KRA, it's something that moves. I believe I think also as a company, you should have that rate in mind. If you know you're paying people on 25th and you're paying someone in dollars, you should also do your computation based on that, so that you retain or you deduct the correct amount. Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Makes it a bit hard to plan, because I think if you were to go by this year and learn anything from it, it would be, that was quite, the jump for the dollar and the euro and the pound has been all over the place between December and now. But yes, you take the rate for the day that we are paying and use that to compute the taxes that are applicable. Thank you very much for that.
So, Veronica, let me just add. Yeah. Also, KRA does publish rates. Yeah. So it's also good also to refer to them. I think they do them weekly, if I'm not wrong. So there's that as well.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So kindly use your reactions to appreciate Nicholas. Kindly, let's take a moment. He's been a wonderful presenter. Let's take a moment. Thank you, Dorcas. I see your Shangwe na Vigelegele. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Brian. Come on, guys. Let's appreciate Makofi hapo. Thank you, Jacinta. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mercy. Yeah. The rest of us, kindly utilize your reactions. Let's see how we are appreciating. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Keep them coming kindly. Thank you, Avila Abuya, thank you for appreciating Nicholas. We also appreciate you. Thank you, Christine Inima. We appreciate you for appreciating our presenter. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Irene. Liz Mwangi, we see you. Thank you very much for the Felicity McKenna. I see you. Thank you very much. Joshua, karibu sana, and thank you for appreciating our presenter. I mean, if you still, hey, thank you, Noor. For that. Thank you. We see your celebrations, and indeed, Nicholas, we celebrate you. We are moving higher and higher, and indeed, this has been quite a good engagement. And I would want to take this opportunity to welcome our next speaker. His name is Brian Mboro. He is a product manager with over 10 years experience building products in the banking and fintech industries. So where our human, capacity fails us, Brian comes in, automates the systems for different organizations, provides solutions that enable us to do our work better and faster. At the beginning of this conversation, I shared that I would spend at least 5 days running payroll for about, I think it was 84 staff at that point. 5 days, 5 days, and it's 8 to 5 with extensions of hours that I did not know then that I needed to claim. Now I've learned from Nicholas that I should have claimed the extra hours. And then thanks to a system, I am able to do that in less time. So the person behind such systems or ensuring that our work is done efficiently, error-proof, on a timely basis, because payroll is time sensitive, that we are complying to the remittances that we need to do because the information that we are providing is accurate, that we are following the due procedure, because that has been automated for us to enable us to get work done quickly. That Brian is one of those people. He's very passionate about data and technology and leveraging on that to empower businesses, solve complex problems through innovative product solutions. He has over 10 years experience, as I've indicated, and has worked with other organizations and currently engaged with WorkPay. So karibu sana Brian, and yeah, tell us from a system support, the back end of things, where are we or where should we be? Kindly take it up.
Thanks, Veronica, and everyone for making time. As Veronica said, my name is Brian Boro. I work with WorkPay. I manage payroll and financial services. For those who know us, and for those who don't, we are generally a HR, payroll, compliance, and benefit solution. But above that, we also have other HRIS solutions like disciplinary, performance, and the employer of record as a service, and the youngest baby, which we're trying to fully develop, is around financial services, and that helps us manage the last piece for most of our customers, which is the real-time disbursement of monies to employees. I think I for a minute I switched over to become an attendee just because it was very interesting, just going through and listening to Nicholas, because a lot of what he's saying is what we're also seeing on the system side of things. And the best definition that I would give in this relationship between a company and us, the system provider, is exactly just us being enablers. And the one challenge that we have, especially in this market, sorry, I forgot to mention, we are registered in 31 African countries, but most importantly, we are founded in Kenya, and it's our largest market as well. The largest predicament that we always get to in the clients that we support is always around compliance, and for lack of better word, I would say non-compliance, where you find you would guide a client on the compliant way, but again, there are always gray areas, and our job is an enabler. So that's majorly how we developed our system, so that it does the best at what it does, which is being an enabler. And off of that, it's highly configurable to enable that fast adjustment of be it compliance changes, as well as just policy enhancements. So in the case where you find one company has a different set of policies from the next and from the other, and different industries have different expectations from a payroll system, and that's what drove us to enhance our system to the latest version 3.0, which would allow us to help companies put out configurations that help them meet their policies and changes. But as for a second, I just want to delve into what I planned to tackle. Let me share my screen. let me know once you're able to see my screen. Right,
Yes.
great. All right. So generally, the main reason we're here is to figure out or explore the importance of balancing insights and compliance in payroll management. And I believe Veronica and Nicholas did a great job laying out the foundation. So I'll just go slightly into the importance of optimizing payroll data. First, of course, is the accurate and efficient payroll data management, which I think we've had enough of. The third, I'll say it's the compliance, which I think we spend most of our time. And the second one, I think, is what we haven't fully appreciated, which is the insights from payroll data. Of course, that then drives decision-making around a company. So you find when it comes to the benefits of this, there are some critical items that we have to, I'd say, consume. Let me just, sorry, I don't know why my screen has froze. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
All right, perfect. So first is improve financial planning and budgeting, help you to identify cost savings, opportunities, enhancing employee satisfaction and retention. And lastly, of course, there's the reduce of risk when it comes to non-compliance. Allow me to use a use case where Docus joins a company, fairly new. First task is, yeah, we are opening up a new location in a new country. I need you to do up the budget. Now, without your payroll data in one place, where would Docus start? You have to then start figuring out everything from scratch. That takes time, gives you pressure, and you're like, I think this is too much. I'm not fully equipped. And then it just spirals from there. But when you have all your payroll data ideally in one section, the importance of that data shortens the learning curve, one, and two, makes you move faster when it comes to planning and budgeting. In that case, you find because the payroll data is in one section, I'm able to go and check what are the budget consumptions for that one department, or in totality for the whole franchise for us to be able to set up afresh. And off of that, you're able to quickly put up budgets more faster. Similarly, you check what's the benefit consumption for branch A, or what's the overtime trends for a certain department. And off of that, you're able to see, is it warranted that department Y actually always has overtime every single day, or department B never uses their benefits. So generally also then start giving you indications of where do I save, where do I need to dig deeper and find out what's happening. And then on the third point, it's majorly driven by just the fact that as an employee, I want to be sure that I'm getting what's due to me. So simple things like having inaccurate payroll, you'll find a situation like Cecilia met where she has guys coming into our office and they're like, hey, why am I earning 100 shillings less? And it's purely just because, one, the data maybe wasn't accurately captured, or even in the Excel sheet, you by mistake moved one bracket, and that extrapolates or reduces somebody's income. So off of that, when you have an employee who's always coming to your office and wondering, Why is it 5,000? Next month before that, it was 4,000. Start bringing again trust issues. And we find now, as HR, you start sorting out issues ideally which you're not supposed to be sorting out. So from a company or software point of view, these are the things that benefits that we try to bring out through optimizing payroll data. Lastly, of course, you've heard a lot about the compliance side, just making sure that it's right every time. And ultimately as well, it's like having that third arm to make sure that it's always at par. So the government has changed the rules around housing levy. Do I have to worry that the system hasn't done it? Am I clear with my partner that this is an expectation? So such are the cases where we come in and have to play not only the enabler part, but also the educator, because the one thing that I've noticed in this market, it's become a quick need and function that we have to play as software guys as well. It's not just enough that we've given you a system to do whatever you want, but we also have to play our part to make sure you're compliant. Because truth be told, it's not every fully fledged company that may have a well-knowledgeable employee. And similarly, they have started from humble beginnings, like everyone here who's learning new things, not understanding the repercussions around compliance, that will then become another pain point for the institution. So we also have to then fill in that gap and move from just being an enabler and now taking the people who are driving the conversations and making sure that you're actually being compliant as a value add. So that's the benefit, but let's talk about a bit more about the best practices for optimizing your payroll. And I'll start with, of course, adopting automated payroll systems. I'm glad that most of us use systems. Of course, I've had one or two who are still using Excels. And there are two use cases around this. Where there is, of course, the manual entry, if you're dealing with an Excel sheet or any other form or fashion. There's always that risk of you entered the wrong thing and it goes and messes up a whole other lot of things. You could be like you entered the wrong mobile number and that's where he receives his salary. You entered the wrong account number, money has gone to a different bank account. And the second as well is the element around defragmented systems. So when you have 3-4 systems that support you in your HR function, where onboarding is done on one, and then another is done with leave, and another one is checking on performance. There's also that risk of one duplicated data, but then there's the additional risk where if the data is not pulled into the system or integrate, if all these systems are not talking to each other, which is not that common, then you find it still brings you into this manual space where ideally you're going to have to download a file from here and upload it here, again, wasting the time you'd be spending on doing other valuable things. The second, of course, there are best practice that would be key, would be either investing in a data analytics tool or as well working with a software that is focused on the data analytics, because the one thing that we're good at, again, is to keep your data. But if your data is not speaking to you, then again, you won't be able to generate much value from it. And in that space, you find, as is one of the things that we are currently driving, is figuring out how to bring in artificial intelligence into some of the data analytics too, because at the end of the day, payroll data is what I'd say is metadata. It's quite extensive and expansive, and it's very connected. So if you just yourself and you're not connecting all these functionalities together, it be leave, or timesheets or payroll and attendance. All this brought together can help you increase an employee's performance. It can also just help you identify culture issues. So, but because it's all in different places and it is expansive in nature, you find you may not be able to fully get the story of it. And as to why now our focus is figuring out how do we bring in AI into our reporting engine so that it's able to drive or help our users to start showing that story to management and saying, hey, last month performance dipped, guys were just coming late, and it's potentially because all of last month the bonuses didn't come on time. Yeah, so such things are the things that now we have to come in and help drive that conversation. Otherwise, we have all this data that can help you make a decision. And if we don't take up that space of helping you having those conversations with management, then again, we are not doing a good job on our side. The third is around training payroll staff. So first two, of course, is system oriented. I'd say the last two is the knowledge gap. So the truth is there's only this much that a system can help you do. There's always the space for training and payroll. Like when we go into any company, we spend months on end to just train the staff. And to just equip them from a train the trainer point of view using the system. But that is just only one side, which is the system. There's the element around compliance and the changing ecosystems. Now, as HR, if you have that information and you do not then go ahead and pass it on to the rest of the team who are actually now using the systems, then you'll find you know something should be right, but the people who are actually using the system are not doing the right thing, and you end up having discrepancies within your payroll anyway. So payroll continues to be something that you have to always refresh and remind the whole team. Otherwise, you'll still end up to a non-compliance point of view. And of course, lastly is the regular reviews and audit payroll. And I love how Cecilia brought it out, where she had everything in the system, but she still pulled it out and had it in Excel. So you always have to be pertinent in relation to that, especially when you're doing system migrations, moving from one system to the other. Warranted, you may have a partner who will help you move the data, but it's also prudent that you still always have your record somewhere. And the second element around that, I guess, would be speaking about whether to do physical servers versus cloud. So the benefit around that is with cloud, regardless of where you are, you'll still have access to your system. Web-based, the better. So you're really not locked in on, oh, I'm on leave, I need to sort out something, or I have to go to the office. It ends up being unnecessary conversations that you're having, especially now that you're in a space where we're dealing with remote companies, where one person is in India, another one is in Kenya, another one is in Nigeria. So generally, the movement is now towards having the data in cloud so that one, it has multiple replications of it in case there is downtime. You also have access regardless of where you are because it's web-based. So ideally, those are some of the best practices around that. But what are the challenges then? Because most of us actually know the best practices, but it still falls within some challenges to achieve it. So first concern ideally is always around ensuring data accuracy and integrity. Second is around balancing data privacy and employee rights. And third is some concerns when it comes to and sorry, please.
We can hear you, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can.
Test. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Ah, great. Right. So next is, of course, keeping up with the changing regulations. And if I can just dive in a bit on each. When it comes to data accuracy and integrity, it's the basis is what I mentioned first around there's the manual entry within the system. So you find like for us, WorkPay, the reason we brought out employee-based onboarding is because to reduce the risk, if I can say that, on the employer. So you find you're able to self-onboard on web and on mobile as well, where you're able, as an employee, you enter the information yourself, and that, by that case, it's then deemed correct. And you can't go back to HR and said, no, me, I told you 5, why did you put 6? But again, also when it comes to like switching from one system or the other, there's always the data security elements that you have to make sure you continue to do. Validating and continuous auditing of the quality that has gone in. So doing checks that I uploaded 10 and they went in 10, that column 5 had 2 and not 3. Those are the basic checks that you always have to do. But again, it still boils down to that point where if you may think you've done everything that you've done accurately, but there's still that gap where something went wrong. So falls in again the element of system audit. So you find within most systems, ours included, there's the validation of values that go in. So like formats around a KRA PIN starts and ends with alphanumeric and has, I think, nine characters between. Similar to mobile numbers, ID numbers, we are now integrating with things like IPRS so that these things continue to create value to our users. So the next, of course, then it's talking about the challenge between data privacy and the employee rights. Now, when it comes to deriving insights, these two have to be balanced out in the sense of, as Nicholas mentioned, when it comes to data privacy, yes, WorkPay is a registered data controller and processor, but still the employee can say, I don't want you to see X, Y, Z, and the truth is it's his right. So you can go ahead and do that, but then when you're now trying to derive insights from your data, something as minimal as said, don't show my sex. When you asked how many male and female do you have, what are you supposed to do? So there's the elements around, there has to be a balance when it comes to the types of data that you're keeping and the ones that you're not. And that can also continue to be an open conversation between you and the employees, as long as you're giving them a surety that their data is safe, to that will not be used for any malice. That's the role of the HR now in terms of just making them confident that the data is safe, and you're also giving them clarity on why you're collecting that information, so that when it comes to now deriving the insights, it then becomes an easier conversation. Otherwise, if you lean in on too much on one side, then you continue to lack around insights. So you want to be compliant with someone's data, but again, you have a challenge when it comes to derive decision making within the company. The other one, again, is the challenge is always keeping up with changing regulation. Now, truth is, within this year alone, this year and part of last year, we've had to do about 3 or 4 changes, and it was quite hectic, just because when a change comes in, it first comes in unclear, and then it's made clear later, and then similarly it changes again. I'll give you the example of housing levy. The housing levy first came, and that was, oh, that's fine, okay, we've changed it, but it still took them some time to update the P10. So your payroll was correct, but you couldn't report. Then shortly after that, in the next month, they gave more clarity around what should be applied housing levy in relation to allowances. So bonuses and things like that, which should apply to casuals and contractors. So that then comes as a second. So then we had to tweak it again. And then now, third, you find on the relief part of it. Again, this year, relief came into action. There's relief within the law. And then the truth is, to date, they have not yet updated the P10. But what's the guidance now for the user to be able to do the reporting? So that way you find now you want to be compliant, but then now you have to circumvent so that you're able to meet the KRA reporting guidelines. So on our part, what we do is to just make sure that we're continuously talking to lawyers, to KRA, and also to the government, just to be able to figure out, okay, you haven't done X and Y. How do we support our users in the meantime? And we then continue to continuously communicate to our users so that we guide them accordingly. And that's now the element of having a robust system that can be able to change these things on the fly and on the go. But more than that, I think the one plea that we've come to see for most of our clients is they need that hand-holding. Okay, you've done it, tell me. Why? Because she's been trying to figure out a disciplinary case. After that, there was a presentation to the board. So as enablers, we have to be that extra hand for our users. And then lastly, of course, we're talking about integrating to payroll systems with other payroll systems or accounting tools. Now, the things that people have to recognize when it comes to integrations, most often than not, it will not be smooth. Not at all. Why? Because them having just different databases and how they put out their structures, it will not be smooth. So my first plea would be, even as you source for a system, either look for a system that has most, if not all, of what you're looking for, so that you avoid such issues, or again, be cognizant in that moment that even as you're doing that, there are a lot of failure points that then cannot be rushed. So you rush it, it affects something else, and you only come to find out later when you're being fined. So those are the challenges ideally when it comes to wanting to have a balanced payroll data. Now,
just to wrap up, I think I just want to give some guidance more oriented towards this topic in the functionalities that you should look for when you're looking for a system that will offer you a balanced payroll data. And first, of course, is the automation of for accuracy and efficiency. What I'd want to mention around that would be around three things. Automated data entry is key on the line. There's automated calculations and automated workflows. When I talk about automated data entry is try and figure out as much where having a provider who has like employee service portals and a fully fledged HRIS. So that way you're not having to enter manual data. So you don't have to move your leave information from one system to the other, or your timesheets or your attendance from another system into one. Similarly, also just for the data input, if the employee can do it themselves. That would be a big win. So it reduces the number of issues that you may account from errors. Second, automated calculations, of course, as much as an Excel sheet can offer that, I think it's just always make sure and interrogate that the systems and their calculations are accurate. And lastly, there is the automated workflows. At the end of the day, strive to look for a system that can streamline your payroll processing. I'll give you the example for Workpay. We have, I'd say future payrolls. Let me call it future payrolls for ease of understanding. So off of our platform, you're able to know what next month's payroll is, and it is always checking for updates within a payroll. So you enhance somebody's allowance, it goes ahead to include that. And because you're able to introduce an allowance as a one-time or as a recurring, so if it's a recurring, then it will also make sure that that allowance is then computed again for all the future months as well. So when you have a system that is able to give you a ready payroll on the fly, it shortens the time for you to process your payroll. The second thing I want to touch on again is the data management for insights and security. So, and on that again, 3 points. One is look for a system that has a centralized data storage. So consolidates all the employees' payroll data in a secure location. So for us, just as I mentioned, we go web, we are web-based, but most of all, we are cloud-based. So off of that, we make sure that the data is readily available for you centrally, wherever you may be. And we also have a lot of encryptions around it to make sure that it is always secure in whatever form and nature. Second, I'd say data analytics tools, just as I mentioned, in whatever rudimentary form, look for a system that can give you insights within your data, just because it's a lot of information. So even just basic informations that can help you generate insights within your workforce trends or identifying cost-saving opportunities, again, becomes a big win. Because yes, computing is one and it's the most painful, but the thing that will help you shine again within your individual companies will continue to be the insights, because that's what then shows value. And lastly, of course, data security features. So it be encryption, access control, so meaning role-based access. Look for a system that can also offer you things like maker checker, so that you don't end up to a situation where you have a payroll officer who's going away with 6 million overpaying themselves. So those are just some of the things that you should look out for. Around compliance, features so that you have your peace of mind. Look for a partner that can, one, of course, have automated compliance checks. So things like a third rule. It doesn't have to stop, but to notify you that one individual one has his deductions has surpassed their third rule, or this guy is on negative, he's now on negative when it comes to his net pay. Yeah, so such checks that is always prompting you, so automated compliance checks, and two, having a partner who's I'd say over communicating. So X and Y has changed. We've done this on the system. Kindly go in and check. Those becomes some of the key things that you should look into. Lastly, again, just file formats. Just because you may be knowledgeable, the people under you may not be knowledgeable. So look for the file formats that will be easiest to consume. I'll give you the example of the P10. So when we generate a report that allows you to map out, this relates to column D on P10, this relates to column E on P10, such elements become helpful for you to move faster. And of course, lastly is just the user friendliness for everyone. The last thing I just want to mention on is the one thing that you always have to then just remember is that you have to choose a partner that is an efficient enabler. Enabler, not just from a system point of view, there's the additional stuff so that you're able to succeed. So I'll give you information, assure you that your compliance, you're compliant, and when you're not, I'm telling you you're not compliant, just because of the repercussions that you've just had from Nicholas. It means either you as the HR will be in jail, or even the company ends up losing money. So it's prudent to look for a partner that is able to walk that journey with you and be that extra employee that tells you, yes, we are compliant. Yes, these are the insights. You can reduce your costs here. Your people are not performing well here and such. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me, Vero, in relation to system, being an enabler, and most importantly, how to derive insights from your data.
Wow, thank you very much, Brian. I know you come in as a solution provider to the pain points that the members here have been able to share. During the registration, you were able to ask what's your biggest payroll data management challenge. And one of the greatest fears is, of course, being miscalculating employee pay, how you treat advances and taxation. And you've talked about that you're able to automate some functions like the tables and stuff to just ensure that the information is accurate, it is timely. I'm trying to see what else. Finding a payroll system that is connected to the HRIS, and you've talked about a one-stop shop that enables, you to just sort out everything, not just payroll or not just leave. And then issues around deductions, reconciliations is one of the reports, optimization, and you've talked about the analytics and insights, and then filing statutories that, the forms are connected to supposed to be remitted for ease of you're just making HR work efficient, adjusting to the laws and the changes, and we can be quite impatient, to be honest with you, when it comes to that, because as you have heard, it is a time-sensitive issue. You have to pay people on time. You have to ensure that you deduct the right amounts of money. And for example, when the housing levy came to effect, I couldn't adjust in good time. So I ended up just saying, you know what, we'll deduct it next month when things are clear, and you're able to go back as long as you communicate to staff. So then in issues around integration of data, all that. So there were quite a lot of questions from the ladies, from the members who registered, and even our visitors today, that I believe you've been able to handle in your presentation, and to be for sure that then this training, I believe, has met its objectives. I want to open the floor up to the ladies, to the members present. Sorry, I am used to talking ladies, and I'm seeing we have some gentlemen present today. So kindly, let's have questions being asked. Sometimes if you're in the NGO space, you're told we need a budget for 2027. What is our staffing plan? You know, what will be our budget? Being able to project that, and you've talked about future payrolls, that you're able to look ahead or have analytics or insights that enable you to be able to plan ahead. So let's have just your quick reactions, your quick question. What is it that you're taking away from what Brian has managed to share? The one thing that has for sure excited me is that employees can self-onboard. I know we are used to like enabling only the pay slip, the leave form, maybe P9 form only, but I didn't think about employees being able to self-onboard. Automated calculations are critical, really. And then, of course, flexibility and accuracy, that you are flexible. Sometimes you just have to have the right partner to support you. I kept telling our system support guy, I just want the system to do this. How you get it to there, that's your business. For me, it's the end result. I need to see 1, 2, 3 on this end. The other details about how you code, I leave that to you. So you've talked about that. How flexible is the person who is supporting you? And critical is the centralized storage. Nicholas talked about this and indicated that you could easily be sued for, and between losing a case and winning a case, it's the documents that you prepared and how you stored that information. And you've talked about web-based and cloud-based storage, of course, issues around encryption and the security of that data, as well as being able to gather insights. If you're able to have controls around that, that is also extremely, extremely important, so that, you know, I'm not preparing payroll, approving, checking, and paying, you know. Temptations come where money is concerned. And then, of course, having an efficient enabler. That for me has been the highlight of your presentation. And I'd want to just invite 1 or 2 people, a few people to, you know, share what is it that you're taking, what is it that you'd want clarified, what is it that is exciting you about this, and as workload increases and you're required to do more, how can you engage in a manner that enables you to make your work easy and fast and efficient? Emily, do you want to go first? Emily Othiambo? All right, are you, I don't know if I can hear you. You can have it in the chat, or we can go ahead and have the conversation right here. I'm trying to see who is ready to to go. Dorcas, if you see, before I do, let's have reaction. Dorcas, for you, what is it when you hear this? Or, yeah. Sorry, let me go to Wanjiku. Go first. I see Nora Ogola is saying, wow, never thought about onboarding. Can I ask a question, please? Yes, Nora, kindly go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can hear me. Brian, thank you very much for that presentation. It's actually, you have covered almost everything. Now, my question is, if I'm coming to you as a client, because you're a solution provider, and I want my own system, are you developing for me according to what I'm putting on the table, or you have your own that I'll have to adopt?
So, sorry, yeah, was that the full question or?
Yes, for you, yes, it is a full question.
Okay, good.
Am I adopting, or we have an option where you can develop according to my own need and preferences?
So, ours is a off-the-shelf solution, customized to 31 countries. But the truth is, the one thing I've come to realize in this space, I cannot force you to adopt, because every industry and every company has different policies. So the way our system is structured is highly configurable, where you're able to adopt your policies so that you're able to take it up and move on without issues. And I'll give maybe a big foundation of why we went software as a service. The truth is, when you look into the market before HR software as a solution, as a service came on, it was a large barrier because of the cost, because having something specifically for you comes at a large cost. And those people who are running standalone systems are very well aware of that. So to a company that's starting up or growing in remote areas, you find it doesn't quite work out for them. And that's why we went SaaS-based. One, so that you're only paying for usage, bringing your cost lower. But two, just giving you that flexibility to do whatever you want. So, but just to answer you, the solution is what we offer off the shelf. And then now we start configuring it according to your policies.
Okay, thank you. Now, thank you for that. Veronica, is it Veronica? Another question, but I think this one will go probably maybe both Nicholas and Mr. Mburu. Okay. When it comes to compliance, so when you are working with projects, and actually I'm talking like this because this is the situation that I'm currently facing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes where you forecasted the period of a project to be 3 years, or let's say 4 years. Now you gave this an employee a 4-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
After 2.5 years, the project comes to a completion. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, because you need to release this employee, so when you are releasing this employee, am I paying severance pay or not? So
Okay.
I need to comply 100%.
So I'll let Nick start from a compliance and legal point of view first.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's really if you're terminating the contract and it's not the fault of the employee, you will have to do a redundancy, because the point is you have given a 4-year contract, meaning that you have agreed with this employee that you will be employed up to a certain date. So that's a fixed term contract. So if you're terminating early, it has to have a reason. So I mean, if it's a disciplinary issue, of course you can do that quite easily. But if your project has come to an end, or you have run out of, or or you're restructuring your operations, whatever it is, so long as the employee is not at fault, you must go the redundancy way. So I would say you would have to pay them severance. But yeah, so I think that's why it's important to always have that in mind, especially if you're doing time sensitive, employment, and employment in sectors where things change very rapidly. You need to always have that in mind. You should have shorter contracts, if possible. But yeah, so where you've committed to 4 years, if you're ending it early, you will have to make those payments. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I agree with you 100%. I just needed a confirmation because we are differing in the management. We are differing, okay? And there are those serious people who think we shouldn't. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. They can save a shilling today and pay it later, and it will come. It will come with interest. So you'd rather just deal with the issue early enough. And I think those are some of the things that Brian talked about. The system being able to say, under these conditions, this is the computation of the benefit to the employees, if it's severance, if it's their gratuity, that kind of thing. Again, taking into account the environment in which you're operating. If you're in the NGO sector, I remember we had a grant and we were the prime, we were subcontracting or sub-granting about 11 other organizations. And the partner came and said, you have 6 months to close this project. You need to give your sub-grants 3 months notice. And you can imagine trying to manage the change and all that, and trying to figure out what am I paying and what am I not paying. But as Brian has put it, with a good system, you're able to put in the market practices, industry practices that enable you to be compliant 100%. And we've seen people taken to court over that. So even as I'm saying this and just taking it back to Brian to clarify a question in the chat, Mercy, please get ready to just tell us your payroll experience around Africa and Asia. I hope she's still here. And the insight that you are drawing from this, I don't know whether I've lost, she's still here. Yes, she's here. So, Brian, the question is, if I get it right, your payroll system being integrated into an existing HRIS?
So the answer is no. It's not designed to integrate to other HRIS. What it is capable of doing is to allow migration of data, like from one HRIS to the other. I'll give you the example of, if you have a standalone leave management system, leave attendance system, you're able to then just download information from that and upload on our side from a bulk point of view. So the reason I mentioned that it's important that you make sure you get a system that is fully fledged HRIS, is so that you avoid any inaccuracies that can come from that. Maybe just because somebody forgot to import the data and such. But the only The only thing that we currently do support are accounting integrations into accounting software. So QuickBooks and stuff, if you want to integrate and move your information onto accounting softwares, yeah, that one we do manage.
All right. Thank you for that. Mercy, could you share and your insight kindly with us? And of course, not confidential. The bit of it that is not confidential. I mean, Brian has talked about being in 31 countries, with Kenya being the primary country. You are talking about working across Africa and part of Asia. So what experiences do you bring here, and what is it that you're taking from this? Kindly. Right. I'll try get Mercy and get a response on that. Let's have question you may have. Let's have just drop a comment on the chat, or just raise your hand and ask. We are nearing the end of the presentation, and really this has been super helpful. That one thing that we do not consider or we forget to talk about or prepare for, as Brian has put it, one of those being, the insights, investing in the data analytic tools to make our life as HR easy, and then also training our staff to ensure that their issues around compliance are non-negotiable, and especially for management. Sometimes you are at loggerheads with your managers, or they think HR is here to police people, but serve a higher purpose than what is being shared. So for you, Sharon, as you're leaving this, we are ending the conversation. What is it you're taking from today's presentation on, as Brian has shared? All right. It doesn't have to be Sharon. It can be any one of us who is ready. Dorcas, including yourself. Let's hear. We can hear from you.
I think for me, I would start by saying Brian should have met me 5 years ago, so that I would have gone through a smoother ride past the payroll. I like how he has just introduced payroll optimization and the sequence on how you should start. I think we fail start because we focus so much on just how to use the system, instead of first understanding as the user what we need the system to do for us. So I like the fact that he said that he doesn't really advocate just any organization to adapt, but wants to understand the needs. And when I think about the first time I was assessing and changing into a system, and even during the different upgrades the system would have, the biggest challenge is, how do you address your needs as a user, and how do you make sure the management understands that these are the important needs? And sometimes, the software providers may just be selling. So the sequence he has taken us through is the first basics that one would need to go through for any payroll, even if you're doing time and attendance, as long as you're using a system that is linked into the payroll, or you are in the side of finance, you actually need to know your first why, and then design what needs to work first for that industry you're in, so that it can give you the results that you're looking for. Because at least we can all agree the statutory is a standard, but there's always more beyond that. And my biggest challenge has always been when you're trying to integrate either things to do with performance management, where you're paying out not really even commission, but bonuses. How do you calculate it? How do you ensure those tailored solutions are put in place? So I actually just want to say thank you to Brian, because he has simplified it. But of course, Veronica, as you said, this is a conversation we might need to have again based on the questions that had been raised, but maybe in person. So I'm looking forward to be able to sit down with Brian and the team to discuss more. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, there would need to be a follow-up, and I would like to just a moment to drop Brian's contacts on the chat for people to continue engaging, as well as Nicholas also to be able to engage. Sometimes you need an ally on your side to help you or confirm that you're walking on the right path at the point at which you're making certain decisions, or sometimes even for HR, because you represent the interests of both the employer and the employee, and sometimes you're torn in between the two, just ensuring that you are making the right, confirming that you're making the right decisions, that those computations, you don't underpay and then end up going to court. If you compute the wrong information, the wrong numbers, the employer can say, you know what, you're the one who gave me this figure. Yeah, Jew, figure out where it's going to come from. But Brian is here telling us that they have a solution that can enable you to reduce on the errors that we make in HR, anticipate changes, and really actually plan for them. Because I think you also talked about issues like, even if it's pension, it's going to be paid much, much later. But how do you ensure that you're creating value for employees? If it's statutory deductions, how are you ensuring that you're complying to the legal requirements in the law first, yes, but also that you're doing right by the employees that are working for you, due service, and that they're getting value for their time also in all this. So compliance really is indeed very key. I'd really just want to appreciate you, Brian, for that session, and kindly let's give him, some hallelujah hands, our shangwe na vigelegele. Kindly let's send some love. Let's send some appreciation to Brian for that session. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Nora. Thank you, Jacinta. Thank you, Joshua, for acknowledging. Thank you, Cynthia. Derry, I see you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Kadalsha. We see you. Thank you. Let me see who else is there. Sharon says she's on the road a bit, but we've gotten your information. Thank you for that. Stephanie, thank you. We received the appreciations that we are getting. Stephanie Wanjiko, tunashukuru sana. Of course, our very own Dorcas, thank you for yes, we received your journey to Brian. Shangwe na vigelegele mingi. Indeed, God bless you immensely. We'll be able to engage and share. Dorcas, if you could help me drop the links or link in the chat kindly. I had to switch devices. If you could help me drop the contacts in the chat so that we can be able to find a way or to engage with these individuals. Our two wonderful presenters, very knowledgeable beyond here. Kindly drop for us in the chat so that we know how to reach them and to contact them. I believe this has been a wonderful evening. There'll be loads of questions, especially on data compliance. And let's continue chatting in our HR group. Marcy Lepario, I see you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making the time to come and learn. And I really just want to appreciate each and every one of you. Delina, Namu. Let me just, acknowledge all of you. Babie, Hamida, thank you. Caroline, thank you. Cynthia and Jerry, thank you very much for making the time. Emma Manviru, sorry, thank you. Grace Gashara, thank you. Jacinta, Kahiu, thank you very much. And Joshua, Ikaibu, tunashukuru sana for your time here. Delina Namu, nashukuru. Jal Shah, thank you for your time, for making it to this session. Lorraine Mzungula, thank you. And Maria Wandaku, thank you. Mercy, Mercy Leparia, thank you. Monica Benta, Nora Ogola, I think you've been a wonderful participant. Thank you very much for your time. Menath Ranira, tunashukuru sana. Sharon Juma, Fika Nyumbani Salama, and Sharon Wanjiko, bless you for making the time here. We hope and believe that you've been able to take something home that you did not know, or just needed a reminder to ensure that you are staying on track. I'd really just want to give all of you a huge and big thank you for your time. And yes, thank you for allowing me to facilitate this session. Back to you, Dorcas.
So I just want to give a big accent to the team that was taking us through today. I feel it was worth the wait, worth the time, and also want to, of course, recognize everyone who was there. And just a quick update from my end, just as we're finishing off, is just to invite everyone to our conference. Actually, WorkPay will be there. They will be showcasing their payroll. So you'll get a more better opportunity to interact with them. But we are also ensuring that the session was being shared on YouTube, and therefore anyone who missed any part, you'll be able to do a quick catch up, and we'll do our best to do a summary of some of the questions that were raised based on the presentations that were shared. So we want to extend a big thank you for even our visitors. This is a session we do every third Thursday of the month, and therefore this was our Thursday HR plug, and usually it's an hour, but this time we were covering ground, so we needed to have a little bit of more time. So we want to say a big thank you to everyone. And if you have any queries, I've done my best to share every bit, and I'll stay in for maybe another 10 minutes for anyone who would want to inquire anything. But from us to all of you, thank you very much, and feel free to join us for our conference. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.